From the mud to the rise, yeah, we built it on the grind. Trench talk, real talk, leave the fake ones behind. We don't fold, we don't break, every move we define. It's the code from the trenches where the real ones align.
Yo, gather round, fam, cause I'm about to take you on a ride through the streets of Long Beach, where the sun shines bright, the palm trees sway, and the facades are so clean you think you stepped into a postcard for the good life. But don't get it twisted, this ain't no fairy tale. Nah, this is a story where the pretty pictures got cracks, and behind those manicured lawns and sparkling pools, there's a side of Long Beach that'll make your jaw drop. Buckle up, cause we're diving deep. First off, let's paint the picture. Long Beach is that chick who walks into the room and heads turned. Clean streets, houses so pristine you think Martha Stewart herself came through with a squad of landscapers. Pools? Oh, they got 'em. Backyards so lush you think you're in Beverly Hills. And the women? Oh, don't even get me started. I'm talking next level, stop you in your tracks, my goodness type of stunning. I remember seeing the Long Beach State track team a few years back, and let's just say, I had to check my pulse. Yeah, it's that kind of place. But here's the kicker, the plot twist, the moment where the music stops and the lights flicker. Long Beach ain't just sunshine and swimsuits. Nah, there's a shadow lurking behind those white picket fences, a side of the city that'll make your blood run cold. And to understand how we got here, we gotta rewind the tape, go back a few decades, and peel back the layers of this so-called paradise. See, in most cities, when things go south, there's a clear reason. Maybe it's the factories shutting down, leaving folks with nothing but dust and broken dreams. Maybe it's public housing projects that turned into traps instead of hope. Or maybe it's just generational poverty, a cycle so vicious it feels like there's no way out. But Long Beach? Oh, Long Beach got its own story, and it's a gut punch. Let me take you back to January 2007. The city was shook, and I mean shook, to its core. Tasha Brown's name was on everyone's lips, but not in the way anyone would want. Her murder was brutal, a wake-up call to anyone who thought Long Beach was all sunshine and rainbows. It was a moment that ripped the mask off this city and showed the world what was really going down in the shadows. But before we get in the details of Tasha's brutal death, let me tell you all about LBC. This is where the real story begins, where the east side and the west side of the LBC throw down like two heavyweight champs in a ring with no rules. And trust me, this ain't no friendly sparring match, this is war. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, the blood, the betrayal, and the bodies, let me school you on the players in this game. Long Beach ain't just a city, it's a chessboard, and the pieces, oh, they're moving. At the center of it all, you got the Vario Longos, aka Longo 13. Yeah, that's right, Longo like long in Spanish, but don't get it twisted. These dudes ain't about stretching the truth, they're about stretching the limits of what a gang can do. Formed in the 1960s, they started as a brotherhood, just a bunch of hustlers trying to stack paper. But by the 70s, oh, they turned into something else entirely. Territorial? Nah, that's an understatement. These dudes were like, this is our city, and if you don't like it, we'll make you like it. Now, here's where it gets spicy. The 70s hit, and Long Beach started changing. First wave, a flood of Cambodians rolled in, like 50,000 deep, right into Longo territory. You think the Longos were throwing welcome parties? Nah, they were throwing hands, extorting, robbing, and straight up bullying these newcomers. But the Cambodians weren't having it. They linked up, formed their own squads, ABZ and Tiny Rascals, and suddenly, it wasn't so easy for the Longos to run the block. But that's a whole other story, so we'll save that for another day. Next up, you got families from Compton and South Central dipping out of the chaos and landing in Long Beach, thinking they'd found peace. LOL. Nah, the Longos weren't about to let that slide. So what did these families do? They banded together, formed their own crew, and birthed one of the most infamous gangs in LBC history, the Rolling 20s, aka the Dubs. These dudes didn't rock blue like your typical Crips. Nah, they repped black and yellow like the Pittsburgh Steelers and New Orleans Saints. And let me tell you, they came to play. But the Dubs weren't alone. Right across 21st Street, you had the insane Crips, aka ICG. Yeah, I said insane, and trust me, they earned that name. These dudes were wild, ruthless, and didn't care who got caught in the crossfire. Back in the 70s and early 80s, the Dubs and ICG were tight, united against one common enemy, the Longos. But like all good things, it didn't last. By the time a young baller named Calvin Brodus, yeah, that's Snoop Dogg to you, was old enough to join the Dubs, the alliance had crumbled. Families were split, friends turned foes, and the streets turned into a battlefield. And here's the kicker, some families had members in both the Dubs and ICG. Imagine sitting at Thanksgiving dinner, passing the gravy, knowing your cousin might catch a bullet from your brother later that night. That's the level of madness we're talking about. And who benefited from all this chaos? You guessed it, the Longos. They sat back, watched the Dubs and ICG tear each other apart, and laughed all the way to the block. By the late 80s, Long Beach was a war zone. Homicide rates were skyrocketing, 14 in 87, 17 in 88, and a jaw-dropping 22 in 1990. And the cops? They knew exactly who was behind it. The Longos, the Dubs, and ICG. These three crews turned Long Beach into a powder keg, and every day was a gamble. Now, let's talk about Snoop. Yeah, the dog himself. He grew up in the heart of the Dubs territory, balled out on the field, but when the cleats came off, he was rolling with the 20s. Even as his rap career started blowing up thanks to Dr. Dre and The Chronic, Snoop was still repping his set, living that street life. But here's the thing, in Long Beach, fame don't mean a thing when the bullets start flying. Every day was a risk, and Snoop knew it. November 23rd, 1993, Snoop Dogg, the king of the West Coast, decides he's had enough of the Long Beach madness and bounces to the Palms area. But guess what? The streets don't let go that easy. Snoop's cruising in his ride, minding his business, when out of nowhere, some dude starts wilding out on the corner, yelling like he's lost his mind. Snoop pulls over, thinking, "What's this fool's problem?" His bodyguard, Malik Lee, is already on high alert, ready to throw down if things get messy. The dude's friend steps in, like, "Chill, my boy forgot his meds, he's just tripping." Snoop's about to dip, but then, bam! Crazy dude pops out the bushes, reaches for his waistband, and Malik doesn't hesitate. One shot, and it's a wrap. But here's where it gets wild. LAPD rolls up, IDs the dude as Little Smooth, and guess what? He ain't no regular civilian. He's tied to a rival crew of the Rolling 20s. Now Snoop and Malik are in the hot seat, wanted for questioning. But does Snoop turn himself in right away? Nah, fam. He hits up the Video Music Awards first, cause if you're gonna face the heat, you might as well do it in style. After the show, he finally turns himself in, and that's when the LAPD starts spinning their web of lies. They paint Snoop as the mastermind, claiming he paid Malik to take the fall. But here's the kicker, Malik ain't no fool. He straight up admits, "Yeah, I did it, it was self-defense." But the cops? They're too busy trying to pin it on Snoop, lying through their teeth in interrogations. Fun fact, cops can legally lie to you. Yeah, let that sink in. Malik ain't falling for it though. He sticks to his story, and eventually, the truth comes out. Philip's friend admits Malik was telling the truth, and just like that, the charges drop. Snoop walks free, but the streets, they're still on fire. Fast forward to March 6, 1999. A Rolling 20s OG named Kenneth Kibo Wilson is cruising through ICG territory with his homies in the back seat. He spots some dudes repping Raiders hats, which in Long Beach is basically a neon sign saying ICG. Kibo, bold as ever, pulls up and asks, "What set you from?" When they say insane Crips, Kibo gets heated. He tells them he's gonna drop his boys off and come back to handle business. But instead of going home, he makes a U-turn and pulls right back up. One of the ICG dudes yells, "Ain't you Kibo from the 20s?" Before he can even answer, bam! Another life lost in the endless cycle of beef. This kind of madness became the norm in Long Beach. The triangle of ICG versus Rolling 20s versus Longos was a death trap, and the bodies kept piling up. The cops claimed the Longos were the worst of the bunch, so in 2001, they dropped the Eastside Longo injunction. Basically, if you were even suspected of being a Longo, you couldn't set foot on the East Side. No warning, no questions, just straight to jail. They called it a safety zone, but let's keep it real. It was a straight up lockdown. Some people cheered, saying it worked, but others were like, "Yo, this is America. You can't just ban people from their own neighborhoods." But guess what? The Longos didn't just roll over. They packed up and moved to the West Side, turning it into a whole new war zone. So in 2004, Long Beach hit them with the West Side Longo injunction. Now the West Side was a safety zone too. But the Longos, they're like cockroaches. You can't get rid of them. They bounced to the North Side, and the game of cat and mouse continued. Meanwhile, ICG got hit with their own injunction in 2004. But unlike the Longos, they didn't have another hood to fall back on. So where'd they go? Lancaster, California, 95 miles away from Long Beach. Yeah, you heard that right. They got exiled to the desert like some modern-day outlaws. Now that brings us to January 2007. Tasha Brown is at home doing what she does best, being a mom. She's in the kitchen, whipping up dinner. Her kids are chilling, watching movies, laughing, and playing like kids should. Life seems normal, right? Wrong. Because in Long Beach, normal don't exist. Not when you're a shot caller for the East Side 20 Crips, one of the most respected OGs in the game. Tasha wasn't just a name. She was an icon, a pillar of the community, and a mentor to the youth. But her ties to the Rolling 20s, that made her a target. So there she is, cooking dinner when there's a knock at the door. Now, being an OG, Tasha ain't thinking twice. She assumes it's one of her people, someone from the set, maybe a homie stopping by to chop it up. But when she opens that door, oh, it's a nightmare. Standing there are members of the Insane Crips, the Rolling 20s top rivals. And before Tasha can even react, one of them pulls the trigger. Bam! A single shot to the head, and just like that, Tasha's gone. Her son watches in horror as his mother falls to the ground, lifeless. He runs to get his brother, but it's too late. Tasha's already gone. Rest in peace, Queen. Now let's keep it real. Tasha's death wasn't some random act of violence. Nah, this was a hit, straight up. The Insane Crips planned this, orchestrated it, and executed it with cold-blooded precision. Why? Because the streets don't forget. Tasha's loyalty to the Rolling 20s made her a target, and her status as a shot caller, that made her a priority. This wasn't just about her, it was about sending a message, and the message was clear: nobody's safe. But here's the thing, to really understand the gravity of Tasha's death, we gotta rewind and break down the beef that led to this moment. The Rolling 20s and the Insane Crips had been at war for decades. It wasn't just a rivalry, it was a blood feud, a cycle of retaliation that claimed lives and left families broken. Tasha was caught in the crossfire, a casualty of a war that had no winners. And let's not forget the aftermath. Tasha's death shook Long Beach to its core. The community was devastated, her kids were left without a mother, and the streets, they got even more dangerous. The Rolling 20s wanted revenge, and the Insane Crips, they were ready for whatever came their way. The cycle of violence continued, and the body count kept rising. Tasha Brown. She wasn't just repping her set, she had family deep in the game too. But here's the twist. Her brother Maurice Brown wasn't a gang member. Nah, he was just a regular dude trying to live his life. But in Long Beach, family ties can drag you into the fire, whether you're ready or not. And that's exactly what happened to Maurice. Picture this, May 14th, 2005. Maurice, his fiancée Hanifa Gibson, and his brother Danny roll up to Truce Bar in Long Beach. They're just trying to chill, have a couple drinks, but then Maurice peeps the decor, black and gray banners, the colors of the Insane Crips. Now, if you know the streets, you know this is a red flag. Someone from the Insane Crips had just been laid to rest, and the vibe in the bar was heavy. Maurice, being smart, decides to bounce. He knows better than to stick around when the enemy's mourning. Smart move, right? Wrong. As they're leaving, Maurice's niece, Sandria, pulls up in her car. They're all chatting through the window when out of nowhere, Fair Garnet, aka Lil Crook from the Insane Crips, strolls up. This dude's got a black hoodie pulled over his face, and before anyone can react, bam! He starts blasting into Maurice's expedition. The SUV speeds off, but Garnett chases it, unloading bullets into the back and side windows until the truck crashes into a pole. When the dust settles, Maurice is dead, shot in the head and chest. Danny takes 7 bullets and ends up needing multiple surgeries and leg braces. Hanifa and another woman survive with non-life-threatening injuries, but the damage is done. Now here's where it gets even messier. Tasha, Maurice's sister, was supposed to be a key witness in the trial against Lil Crook, but before she could take the stand, she was silenced. The Insane Crips allegedly took her out because they thought she was gonna snitch, and how'd they know she was on the witness list? Oh, that's a whole other scandal. We're talking dirty cops, court clerks leaking info, and a whole network of people feeding the Insane Crips intel on open cases. Yeah, the streets don't play fair. Tasha's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a spark that lit an already raging fire. The beef between the Rolling 20s and the Insane Crips went nuclear. Shootouts, setups, and straight-up executions became the norm. And in the middle of all this chaos, a young kid named Jabari J-Boy Bannon got caught up in the crossfire. J-Boy was only 15, but don't let his age fool you. This kid was deep in the streets, Funny, smart, and full of personality, he had love from everyone who knew him, but he was also wild, fighting, stealing, and running with the baby insane Crips. Here's the kicker. J-Boy used to roll with the Rolling 20s before he switched sides. And in Long Beach, switching gangs, that's a death sentence. On November 29th, 2008, J-Boy and some other insane Crips were walking down 11th and Ohio Avenue when they got ambushed by Delmore George Young, an 18-year-old Rolling 20s member. Delmore pulls out a pistol and starts spraying. J-Boy tries to run, but he takes 2 bullets, one in the abdomen, one in the back. He's rushed to the hospital, but it's too late. J-Boy's life is cut short, another casualty in a war that never ends. Jabari J-Boy Bannon, the 15-year-old kid who got gunned down on November 29, 2008. This wasn't just some random hit. This was personal. J-Boy was loved by his crew, his family, and even the OGs in the game. He was funny, smart, and had a heart bigger than the LBC itself. But the streets don't care about your personality when you're caught in the middle of a war. J-Boy got ambushed, shot twice, and left to die just a month and a half before his 16th birthday. His death? It sent shockwaves through the city, especially for his best friend, Tom Vincent, who was with him that night. Tom wasn't just a homie. He was J-Boy's brother in every way that mattered. They grew up together in the roughest parts of the East Side, went to the same schools, and even did time together in juvie. Both of them started with the Rolling 20s before switching to the Insane Crips, which, as we know, is a one-way ticket to a target on your back. When J-Boy died, Tom wasn't just hurt, he was furious. He had hate in his heart and revenge on his mind. And trust me, nobody could have predicted how far he was willing to go to avenge his brother. Fast forward to October 30th, 2009. Wilson High School's homecoming game was in full swing. Long Beach Poly versus Wilson, 2 powerhouse teams, a packed crowd, and of course, the usual mix of allies and enemies. It was the perfect storm. Insane Crips members Tom Vincent and Devin Davis were there, along with a few other homies. But so were their rivals, the Rolling 20s. And when these 2 crews cross paths, you already know it's about to go down. Tom and Devin spot Marcus Moore and Brad V, 2 Rolling 20s members, and the tension hits DEFCON 1. Words fly. Baby Insanes. Fuck you, 20s. And before anyone can blink, Tom pulls out a pistol and starts spraying. Marcus and Brad get hit, but here's the kicker. The crowd is massive. Students, parents, teachers, everyone's out celebrating, completely unaware that a war is about to erupt in their backyard. In the chaos, a stray bullet hits Melody Ross, a 16-year-old honor student and track star. She wasn't in a gang. She wasn't even part of the drama. She was just sitting on the curb with her friends, enjoying the night. But in Long Beach, innocence don't mean a thing when the bullets start flying. Melody's life was cut short, and the city was left in shock. Her death made headlines across Southern California, not just because of the brutality, but because it was a wake-up call. This war wasn't just taking out gang members, it was taking out kids. Tom was arrested shortly after the shooting. During the trial, he claimed he carried a gun because he was always in fear for his life. He said he'd been shot at 20 times and beaten up for switching gangs. He even testified that he only fired after seeing a Rolling 20s member point a gun at him. But none of that mattered when the jury handed down his sentence, 130 years to life plus 25 years. Tom's revenge quest cost him everything, and it cost Melody Ross her life, with the domino effect of death that started with Maurice Brown. His murder was the first crack in the dam, followed by his sister Tasha Brown's assassination. Then came Jabari J-Boy Bannon, a 15-year-old kid who had his whole life ahead of him. And finally, the most innocent of them all, Melody Ross, a 16-year-old honor student who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. These deaths didn't just leave bodies in the streets, they left families shattered, friends broken, and a community drowning in trauma. But let's keep it real. The hood don't care about your pain. It's a machine that chews you up and spits you out, especially if you're a kid caught in the crossfire. Take Raymond Graham, Tasha Brown's son. This young man didn't just lose his mom, he watched her get gunned down in cold blood. And that was just the beginning of his nightmare. His uncle was shot and killed, his grandparents died of cancer, his older sister got life in prison, another brother died in a car accident, and his uncle passed away from old age. This kid was hit with tragedy after tragedy, and he was just a child. Raymond's grandma said it best. Growing up was hard for me. Both of my parents were in gangs. My mom was from the 20s and my dad was from the Insanes. I grew up around gang violence from when I was very young. Drugs were sold on every corner and at my house. After his mom's death, Raymond and his sister were bouncing from house to house, trying to find a way to survive. It was just back to back to back to back, he said. I was lost in the head growing up. I didn't have anybody to guide me. Now let's be real. Most kids in Raymond's position don't make it out. The streets swallow them whole, and the cycle of violence just keeps spinning. But Raymond? Nah, he's built different. He found guidance in the unlikeliest of places, football. Al Austin, a Long Beach city councilman, said, "I met Raymond when he was 10 years old. He was a close friend of my son's and on the same team. I watched him grow from a kid to a young man, using football as his sanctuary. He was always dreaming about college and what he wanted to do after. His drive was always to make his mom proud. And make her proud he did. Raymond didn't just survive, he thrived. He became a leader in his community, co-founding the Make a Chain Foundation with his friends Cam and Nola McDonald. This nonprofit feeds the homeless and less fortunate, and the trio personally handed out hundreds of meals in Long Beach. When speaking about his foundation, Raymond said, "It's a reminder that things can always be worse. There are kids out there right now who don't have the support I had. This kid's got more heart than most grown men, and he's using his pain to lift others up." But here's the real question. Can the Rolling 20s and the insane Crips ever find peace? I mean, let's be real. These two crews have been at war for over 4 decades. Bodies have dropped, families have been destroyed, and the streets are stained with blood. But here's the thing, and I know insane Crips and Rolling 20s who are related. Cousins, uncles, brothers, they're all tangled up in this mess. So is peace possible? Can these two crews at least agree to a neutral standing? Like, y'all stay over there, we stay over here, and let's leave it at that. Honestly, it's time. Too many lives have been lost. Too many kids have been caught in the crossfire. If the East Coast and the Florencias can find peace, why can't the Rolling 20s and the insane Crips? It's not just about ending the violence. It's about breaking the cycle, giving the next generation a chance to live without fear. So, what do y'all think? Is peace possible? Let's have a conversation in the comments. And if you've got any crazy stories about these two crews or any close calls you've had, drop them below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're rocking with the content. Stay safe. The streets don't care, but we do.